Good evening. Welcome to SEC Baseball Weekend Reaction. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Graham Doty and Alfred Ezman, one of two known Tampa Bay Rays fans, as we jump into SEC Baseball Reaction for this weekend. By my count, 49 games were played by SEC baseball schools this weekend. So, full disclosure, we tried to follow it. If we told you we watched every pitch of every game, or even most of them, we would be lying. But yes, we will try to get into what stood out, what was important, takeaways, and boy, there were some performances this weekend. Alfred, and let's start at the top, and my internet willing, it has been a day around here. So I do not promise you this is going to be clear. I don't promise you I'll even be around the whole broadcast at the rate this is going, but we're going to give it a shot. Let's start with the biggest story of the weekend, or one of the biggest stories. Tennessee dominated St. Bonaventure. Alfred, the first no-hitter of any kind in Tony Vitello's tenure. Of course, Liam Doyle led the way. That kid has now struck out 69% of the hitters he has faced this year. Tennessee continues to be a machine. It leaves the weekend as one of, well, the only unbeaten team left in the league, I believe. Tell us about the Vols and what they did this weekend, Alfred.
Yes, Alabama losing to Presbyterian today. Falls for the first time this season. The Vols are the only remaining unbeaten team in the SEC, along with Florida State, who those two are now the only undefeated teams in all of college baseball. Maybe it's a sign of a national title. We'll see, but it's quite early for that. It looks like it could be probable, but nonetheless, this weekend was a good one for Tennessee. Before I get into them, I'll hit everyone with a stat that was shared by Mike Wilson, who is very good with Tennessee news. Guys, the Vols have hit 49 home runs this year. They've given up 35 runs. So they have hit the ball over the fence more than they give up runs. That is pretty good. I don't care what ballpark you play in. But yeah, some of the home runs this weekend, Dalton Bargo hit one today. Stone Lawless walked off today's game. You had Manny Marin, the freshman, walk off yesterday's game in a run rule via a grand slam. The biggest story for the team, though, as you mentioned, Chris, no hitter for the team on Friday. The first of any kind in Tony Vitello's time at Tennessee. The first one for Tennessee since 2002. It's been a while since they saw a no-hitter in Knoxville, but I think it's just a sort of just all-encompassing thing of this pitching is top-notch for the Tennessee Volunteers this year across the board. Obviously, Liam Doyle is going to help with that no-hitter, but you also get your bullpen guys like Michael Sharman come in, Tanner Franklin, all these other guys that come in and contribute to this kind of outing that they had. This combination, if it continues with their hitting and their pitching, I know it's only non-conference play. They're going to win a lot of SEC games and be a front runner really to win the SEC title again at the very least. And then NCAA tournament time comes, and who knows at that point. So yeah, I think the biggest story was, you had everything from Tennessee once again today. You had the great pitching you saw Friday, and then the home run hitting the next 2 days after that. The Vols will face North Georgia this midweek before taking on Florida in Lindsey Nelson Stadium to open SEC play. That's going to be a really good series, but we'll see if they can end non-con undefeated.
Did you say North Georgia? Who they playing?
North Georgia, I believe. Double check that for me, but I think that's who they're playing.
Okay. Never heard of them. I know West Georgia, this is their first year in Division I. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. So things that stand out to me for Tennessee, Marcus Phillips. I think we got to give a shout out to Marcus Phillips. Career high 5 2/3, struck out 5, didn't walk anybody. He gave up a leadoff home run. And then after that, he was just incredible on the mound for Tennessee. Retired 13 of 14. I looked it up. It catches fire like crazy on social media, just all the grand slams that Tennessee has hit. So they got 8 grand slams already. The record is 14 in a season by Arizona State in 2003. Some guy named Dustin Pedroia was on that team. Gives you an idea of just the history that Tennessee is making. And then also just Liam Doyle just continues to be – I mean, he's going to be in the mix if he keeps doing this. SEC Pitcher of the Year.
Mm-hmm. West Georgia, by the way. Thank you, Sam
I think
Smith, not North Georgia.
Okay, yeah. I figured it was like, I've never heard of North Georgia, but West Georgia, yes. They're making the transition from Division II to Division I. I just literally drove through West Georgia on the way home this weekend. So that's how I know that.
I guess the only negative-ish news for Tennessee this weekend was AJ Russell getting pushed back a little bit. What do we got on that, Alfred?
Sam Smith mentioned it, actually. Yeah, he's pushed back till April. I don't think it's anything. I think it's more caution from what I gather on social media than a setback. Apparently, I guess some of the pitching work he's done has led to maybe aggravation of some sort or something like that. So they're just holding out for a little bit longer. I don't, to be quite honest, guys, I don't know if it's such a detriment right now based on how they're playing, but Sam Smith, thank you for all the stuff you do for us in the comments. Also mentions Sundays will be either bullpen or not Sam Snead. That's a golfer. Nate Snead. It'll be one of those two. So we'll look at that in the future and how that goes. I guess this Florida series, that Sunday decision will be very interesting for how it shapes up. And right now, Florida's going through similar stuff with their rotation with Pierce Coppola being out. So it kind of affected the Sunday starters, that sort of thing. So Sunday's game might be a little interesting. We'll see how it goes. I don't know which way you go. I really don't think if you're Tennessee, you can go totally wrong, to be quite honest, with who you choose between Snead or the bullpen. Just something else to look at going forward. So yeah, unfortunate news, but again, I don't know how much of a detriment it is.
Yeah, you could tell today was kind of the day where Tennessee was going to the bullpen a lot. Like they utilized 9 different pitchers in a 7-inning ball game today. So, before SEC play starts, you could tell Vitello was just, hey, let's try to get a bunch of different guys some action on the mound today.
Next up, sorry, we might have a little delay here.
No, I'm good. We're all good. Sorry.
Okay, 11 teams this weekend swept series. We had Texas A&M, Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky took 2 out of 3. Missouri split 2 of 4 games with Binghamton. That leaves Tennessee, obviously the only unbeaten. Georgia, which has played 19 games at 18-1. Alabama and LSU 16-1. Arkansas 15-1. Ole Miss 14-1. And Texas and Oklahoma at 13-1. Are your one-loss teams? But I want to go to A&M because in a way, I think the weekend's a success, a 19-0 win on Friday night, a 7-1 win on Saturday. But today, New Mexico State takes the final game by a 4-1 margin. Gentlemen, the Aggies, look, anybody can lose 2 out of 3 on a weekend. But my concern for A&M, and look, you can make this up with an SEC schedule, but A&M sitting here at a 141 RPI tonight, I'm just wondering, like, if the Aggies get hot, does that eventually down the line affect them from hosting from a national seed if they get to that point? Just keep that in your back pocket. But what is our feeling overall on the way the Aggies played this weekend?
I guess I'll start way better. Yeah, I know they lost today, but in general, way better than I was heading into the weekend with losses before that. And really, it started with Friday with a 19-0 win. They hit the ground hard and just did not look back. I mean, they had 3 runs in the first inning. That continued from there. You had home runs from Wyatt Henseller, who's hitting a lot of long balls recently, if you noticed. Gavin Cash hit one. Jace Laviolette hit one. Go figure. He tends to do that a little bit. And then the next game, not as lopsided. And New Mexico State had 11 hits in that Saturday game, but Texas A&M did get the win, 7-1. I guess the Aggies could not get runners, home once they got on base is really the case there. So you got to give credit to the A&M pitching, for holding them down for that long. And that goes to Justin Lampkin, who threw 10 strikeouts. That's unless I'm mistaken, multiple 10 strikeout or double-digit strikeout games for Lampkin. So keep an eye on that going forward. And then out of the bullpen, and Luke Jackson did a nice job too. He gave up some hits, but didn't allow any walks or runs. And in the end, that's the name of the game. If I'm an A&M fan, if there's A&M fans in here watching, don't really worry about this Sunday game. I mean, look, you won a weekend series and you won it, you won the first 2 games in pretty convincing fashion. So I would just, go into this upcoming week with my head high, and really try to show out for your midweek game prior to SEC play.
Yeah, to me, it's definitely a step in the right direction for Texas A&M. You were kind of hoping, if you're an Aggie fan, that they were going to sweep today. First 2 games, they had 28 total hits. Today, they only had 4. They just really couldn't do much of anything offensively. So, and like Chris, what you touched on, these are the games that you got to win, especially with SEC play starting this coming weekend, because if you drop some of your midweeks, if you don't sweep some of these series, that's the difference in potentially being hosting, being a national seed, or being a 2 seed and having to go somewhere on the road once the NCAA tournament starts. So you're Texas A&M, you got to try to win as many of these as possible. To me, the story, pitching, Prager lights out as he continues to be. He 7 innings, 7 strikeouts. But Justin Lampkin, season high 7 innings, struck out a season best 10 as well. Guys, he was on pinpoint control. 96 pitches. Listen to this. 80 of those were strikes. 96 pitches, 80 were strikes. So that tells me that he was locked in for Texas A&M. And then Patton was really good today, or good enough. I mean, they didn't win today, but he was good enough to come away with a win. 6 2/3, struck out 4, gave up 2 hits. So that's good enough to win on a Sunday. But the bats just weren't there for Game 3 today for Texas A&M.
Gentlemen, where would you like to go next?
I have a recommendation. How about Baton Rouge for the Tigers, who got a sweep? Let's go down there.
We can go to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, we'll go. I'll head there. And I mean, the big story from that to me, Anthony Eyanson Saturday. I'm sure everyone saw it. 15 strikeouts. Kind of his coming out party. I know he said in his post game that he struggled a little, early on in his starts, and the teams kind of had to play catch up. He did that a little again, but once he got it under wraps, it was really good. I mean, he walked only 2 batters, gave up 2 hits, struck out the 15, like I said. He threw 95 pitches too, which was just a crazy amount, to throw. And it's probably the best start of his college career, considering he came from UC San Diego and that team's expected big things from him. Also impressed on the back half of that game, Zach Cowan out of the bullpen, 5 strikeouts in 2 innings with a good save. That was a pitching game for LSU in that win, which was very nice to see. And then the in-between games, Friday and Sunday, big time hits all across the board. I know Josh Pearson had a grand slam in today's Sunday game. Looking at guys, Jared Jones had 2 hits in the game. He did homer back in the first inning. And then in Fridays, if you go back, look at that, Pearson homered in that one as well. And then John Pearson, the Pearson brothers, home runs across the board from them. Keep an eye on that. A new Bash Bros combo. It might be them and the Aloys back and forth this season to see who's the real Bash brothers. So, and I'm sure that'll go over well on social media with LSU and Arkansas. I'm sure they can talk civilly about that. But nonetheless, got to give credit to the Tigers. I mean, you saw kind of like what I said about Tennessee. You saw the best of everything. You saw lights out pitching Saturday and then some really good hitting games Friday and Sunday.
Yeah, for LSU, Anderson, season high in strikeouts with 11. Eyanson, that's the most strikeouts for an LSU pitcher in 3 years. Like Paul Skeens didn't have 15 strikeouts. That's when you know you're doing something really good. To me, Cowan, like, is this the role that he's going to have on this LSU team? Again, like, he was the guy at Wofford. And that hasn't been his role, at least up to this point, for LSU. He's been on the back end and has been really good in that spot. Offensively, LSU, they hit 10 home runs this weekend. Everybody had their moments. That home run today, by the way, by Bear Jones was insane. Did you guys see it? Mm-hmm. It looked like a foul ball.
A 41-degree launch angle. Yeah.
He just hit it and just wasn't planning on going anywhere because he thought he found it.
He did not think it was out.
Yeah. It was one of the craziest home runs I've ever seen. It just tells you the power that he has. So LSU just continues to look good in all aspects to me.
What else we got? I'm trying to think. What if we had to? How about Georgia? Because a certain player there might be player of the week, like you said, Graham, earlier. I think we should talk about them. Once again, I think all the games for them were, they were, I think, closer than maybe Georgia fans would have liked, but at the same time, that offense is rolling. We talked about Ryland Zabrowski before we got on the air today. What was it? 4 home runs this weekend? Was that right?
5. He hit one today.
My mistake. 5 for Zabo, as they call him. And this offense is rolling. I don't know. At one point today, they took over the home run lead in the country. They might still have it if we pull that up. But I mean, like I said, this offense is on a roll. The key with them, I saw earlier, starting pitching. You know what I mean? What kind of starting pitching are they going to get? A lot of that's injury stuff. I know Colton Smith's going through stuff. Goldstein obviously has had issues a little bit. I get the feeling Leighton Finley will start to deliver you good starts. I give him the benefit of the doubt. If that starting pitching can get back up to snuff, this team sits toward the top, at least, of the SEC. I think these scores that you see like this weekend, I think they're a little closer than you'd like, simply because, like today, today's game is closer than you like, simply because, maybe the pitching has some off ones, some off days and whatnot. But, if they get the pitching back, watch out for Georgia going forward.
Yeah, here's my thing with Georgia. Well, first of all, let's touch on the offense. You allude to the home runs, Alfred. They hit 11 home runs this weekend. They're just on fire at the plate right now. This is the longest winning streak for Georgia since 2009. Kind of gives you an idea of how well they're playing. And if Ryland Zabo, if he's not the SEC Player of the Week, I don't know who's going to be the SEC Player of the Week, because he had 5 home runs and he had 15 RBIs in 3 games. It was just video game-like numbers. To me, pitching-wise, Goldstein, you can tell they are trying to extend him more and more. Like today, he goes 3 innings. He gave up a 3-run home run in the first inning, and then really after that was kind of lights out for Georgia. My thing for Georgia, they get down so big so early. Like they were down at 1 point 6-0. This has happened multiple times now to this season to them. You remember, I think it was last weekend, Florida Gulf Coast, same thing. They were down like 8-9 runs against Florida Gulf Coast on several occasions, and then were able to climb out of that hole. So if they want to get to where they want to go, they're going to have much better starts and just not have to fight their way out of like multiple 5-run deficits.
Even today's game, I mean, it was they were up 7-0, and then Columbia comes storming back, and they make it a 1-run game, 7-6. They score 6 runs in 1 inning. So yeah, just that's something you got to get figured out. Like, obviously, you cannot go through SEC play doing that, and that's just going to come down to what kind of pitching they provide. So we'll see how it goes. Michael Morse with a good note here. Ty Floyd for LSU had 17 strikeouts against Florida. I think, Michael, correct me, that might be their school record for strikeouts in a game. I think it is. We'll see. But regardless, Eyanson got right on the cusp of that, which is pretty good in your 4th start in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Graham, where to next? Where should we go?
I mean, we can touch on the state of Mississippi just because it was kind of an interesting weekend for both Mississippi teams. I guess let's touch on Mississippi State first. So you could tell State was just shaking and moving things all around their lineup, even their rotation. Mississippi State, they played Queens, and they look pretty good all weekend long. Queens out of Charlotte. Relatively new to the Division I level. And to me, Pico continues to pitch at a high level for Mississippi State. 9 strikeouts to kick off the series for State. So they go with Ben Davis in game 2. So that's his first career start ever for Ben Davis. He goes 6 innings, only gave up 1 hit, struck out 4. I thought he was really good. And to me, the story for Mississippi State, we touched on it all week long. Hunter Hines, like what's going on with Hunter Hines? So he sits the bench, a place that he hasn't really found himself a lot throughout the course of his career. Totally healthy, but he just kind of hit the reset button, and he responded in a nice way this weekend for Mississippi State. He finishes with 5 hits. Aaron Downs was incredible for Mississippi State. So he didn't start game 1. Starts games 2 and game 3. At one point, he was 5 for 5. He hit 2 home runs today, finishing with 5 hits this weekend. So you can just tell Mississippi State, they're right when we get to SEC play, they're trying to figure out who they want in certain spots on the infield, in particular first base and second base. Just a really, really nice bounce back week for State. Last week, if you remember, they went 1-3. They have a 4-0 week this week, so they're trending in the right direction as SEC play is coming up.
Yeah, impressed with State. Pitching name of the game, they outscored Queens by a lot. And granted, Queens is new to the Division I scene, so that might be expected. But I caught more of Sunday's game, today's game, than any other game for Mississippi State. Obviously, Carson Ligon's start was impressive. The back end of that bullpen, really good today as well. Kevin Mantle and Kate O'Leary combined for 5 strikeouts in those last 3 innings. So very good stuff from State. And like you said, after kind of the shakiness they've had a little bit through non-conference play, this is what you want to be doing heading into SEC play soon. So don't count out the dogs yet.
Yeah, and good point with their bullpen and pitching, Alfred. So their bullpen, the first 2 games this weekend, only gave up 1 run. So kind of gives you an idea of just how special they were this weekend against Queens.
Absolutely.
Now, for the other team in the Magnolia State, Ole Miss, they swept Jacksonville State. Game 1 was weird, Alfred. It was chippy. I mean, there was a lot of finger pointing. There was a lot of yelling at each other's dugouts, all kinds of stuff. Jacksonville State got an early lead, and then Ole Miss was able to literally swing their way out of it. Ole Miss hit 9 home runs this weekend. Hunter Elliott, not his best start of the season. Elliott 3 1/3, did strike out 5, but he walked 3. So he was just kind of a little bit inconsistent. But Ole Miss did have bright spots. Like Mason Morris was really good coming out of the bullpen. He goes a career high 4 2/3, career best 7 strikeouts when he was on the mound. Walker Hooks as well, career high 3 innings pitched, career best 6 strikeouts. So those 2 look good and on the mound. And then for Ole Miss, we keep touching on them, but they're making a difference. These transfer outfielders, like Ryan Borman was big time today. He had 2 home runs and 7 RBIs today, so he was a monster for Ole Miss. To me, like if I'm an Ole Miss fan, you know, you kind of want to see what the offense is going to look like. Entering today, they only had 2 guys in the lineup hitting above 300, so they're going to have to find a little bit more consistency there. And then defensively, they played the Illinois State transfer, the shortstop Chang, a lot. He's really, really, really good on defense. So, and he's making the most of his opportunities at the plate. So he was kind of playing a little bit more than Owen Pano. I know Pano got the start today. Pano, the superstar freshman from New York. So that's something to watch. I kind of think they're going to play Pano just because the upside is so good. And then also this day and age in the transfer portal, like you want to play him. You don't want him to ride the bench and then leave to go somewhere else. So that's something to watch. And then the catcher spot too. Campbell Smithwick, he is ice cold offensively right now. So if Ole Miss wants to make some noise in SEC play, his bat's going to have to start to get hot. But Austin Foley did step up in a spot. Foley hit 2 home runs this weekend in his opportunities at the plate.
Yeah, and Ole Miss too. Apparently that the chippiness made them a little motivated. You look at Saturday's game, right? Jacksonville State used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pitchers in Saturday's game. So that lineup was getting to them a ton. Outfield transfers, it's like beating a dead horse with Ole Miss at this point. But Isaac Humphrey is another guy that stood out. I think he homered in that Saturday game. I could be wrong. He doubled, and then he had a good game Saturday. He homered during the weekend too. Mitchell Sanford is the one that homered on Saturday. So big stuff from Ole Miss. That continues just to, those outfield transfers have worked for them. And really, it's kind of made their season quite a treat so far compared to last year. Really looking forward, Graham, to their first SEC series against Arkansas. I think that's going to be really good if this continues. This Ole Miss team is really kind of just as hot as anyone, it seems, for the most part, heading into SEC play. And, Arkansas, we'll get into them in a sec. They had quite the weekend. So that'll be – I know we have like Tennessee, Florida, and these other ones. That'll be quite the series to watch, to open conference play.
Yeah, for Ole Miss, I think it's now 13 wins in a row. And for the first time this season on Sunday, the Rebels got to wear the powder blue. So you guys remember 2 years ago when the jerseys were such a big deal in all of baseball?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it took until this point of the season for the powder blues to arrive in Oxford. So that's why Ole Miss hadn't worn the powder blues on Sunday until today.
Better late than never. Better late than never.
Hey, we got an SEC player in the chat.
Whoa!
Look at that.
He's talking about Texas.
Could be a different guy. You never know.
Do people call you Jared? Do people call you Bear?
I feel like we need to know.
Should we go to Texas for Bear? Should we head there?
Let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. Bear, we're gonna head to Texas for you. I see you mentioned Texas has not been 13-1 since their national championship year in 2005. Yes, best start for the Longhorns in 20 years. Kind of shocking when I think about that, considering how much aura I guess is around that program. But that is the case. It's a good thing to be that way. I mean, that's I'm sure where Jim Schlossnagle wants his crew to be. You look across the board of this weekend. What stood out? Jared Spencer. Once again, another great start from him. That's really the big thing with me was the pitching. I know Luke Harrison didn't go crazy deep into his game, but he did enough, and the bullpen was there to help him out. Speaking of new roles and assigned roles, Max Grubbs, guys, another save. Going forward, I think that's it, right? I mean, that's got to be it. I know Max Wiener probably has a good idea of that better than me, but I would like to think that that's where he's going to be stuck in that pitching staff going forward, and it seems to be working so far. And Jared or Bear mentions they get Mississippi State next weekend. Graham, is that one in the dude?
I believe that it is, but I
think it is, which in my opinion is a great way.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great way to welcome Texas into the league. So, I mean, once again, we talked Ole Miss, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee next weekend. That's another one. Texas, Mississippi State. Keep your eye on it. But thoughts on this weekend against Santa Clara? The pitching was great. There was a lot of great performances across the board for the Longhorns. So, pretty excited for that.
Yeah, Texas is going to Mississippi State and the dude, by the way. So, that place is going to be bananas. There's going to be 11,000 people at every game of that series. So this weekend for Texas, kind of their 1-2 punch all season offensively. Like Mendoza has been kind of one of those guys. He's just so solid, so steady. He had 6 hits this weekend, and then Flores, he had 4 doubles and a home run this weekend. So they kind of paved the way offensively, and just Texas just doing what Texas does, and a Jim Schlossnagle team, they just take care of business. They're just going to be so solid, play really good defense, and make the most of their opportunities. And that's kind of what we saw today. And Jared, that Texas team that won it all, I saw that team in person because guess what? They played the Supers in Oxford. It was the first Super Regional that Ole Miss ever hosted. So I was in high school, front row seats for that one. And that was an incredible series between Texas and Ole Miss that year, so much so that after the fact that when they did win it all, Texas, Augie Garrido said, yeah, we won the national championship whenever we won the series in Oxford, taking 2 out of 3. So it is kind of hard to believe, though, all the rich history that they have, that this is their best start since that super talented 05 team.
Right. I was 3 and was not there. Just side note.
I was older than 3, but also not there. Yeah, I mean, my goodness. Somebody asked in the chat, just as a sidebar, if the league is better in baseball this year than basketball. Guys, I think it might be.
Great.
I know that's almost an impossible standard, but I mean, good grief.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like this is the difference. Baseball is harder because you have to look at the coaches that, number one, have been to Omaha, and then number 2, have won a national championship. And there's way more in baseball than there are in basketball that have been in the Final Four or won the whole thing in basketball. But they're both super tough.
We counted this before the season. I'm just going to go like programs that have either won a national title with the current coach or been runner-up. Alabama, no. Arkansas, yes. Van Horn's been a runner-up. Auburn, no, but Butch Thompson's been to Omaha. Yep. Florida, yes. So Sullivan's won it once and been runner-up at least once. Georgia with Wes Johnson, no, though he was a pitching coach for LSU when Jay Johnson won it. Kentucky, no, but did get to Omaha last year under Nick Mingione. LSU, of course, won it 2 years ago. Mississippi State won it in 2001. Missouri has won it, but it was in the 1950s and twice, by the way. Oklahoma, Skip Johnson has not won it, but he went in 2022 when Ole Miss beat him. Speaking of the Rebels. South Carolina has not won under its current head coach, but did go back-to-back with the runner-up between 10 and 12. Tennessee, of course, won it last year. Texas under Jim Schlossnagle first year. Of course, he took them as a runner-up last year. Longhorns have won the thing before, although it's been a minute. I think it was maybe 05, 04, perhaps. A&M we just talked about. And of course, Vandy with Corbin has won it twice since he's been there and runner-up a couple times. So that's the landscape for SEC baseball.
Yeah, pretty good. Also, side note in South Carolina, their head coach, Paul Maneri, enough said with them.
Won at LSU. Yeah,
right.
In 09.
So it's eerily, I'll say this, just to my comment on it. I remember how SEC basketball started with non-conference play of the records. It's kind of eerily similar when you look at the standings right now, because you got Tennessee undefeated, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Texas, all with one loss. Florida, Kentucky, 2 losses. South Carolina, 3. Auburn, 3. Vanderbilt, 3. And then you got Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and Missouri are the only 3 teams with more than 3 losses. So, yeah, it's very close, to say the least. I mean, when you compare the two, we'll have to see. SEC play will probably shake things up a great bit, especially with some teams. But as of right now, it's an eerily similar start to how basketball started.
But my question is, what other conference or sport in general can you rattle off that many coaches that, number one, have won the whole thing, or number two, have made it, national runner-up type stuff? Like, that's just a crazy list that you just rattled off there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 11 of the 12 coaches, have been to a national title or won one.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the number, but I mean, and again, the ones that aren't are like Butch Thompson and Nick Mingione. So that's the state of things. As Sam says, ACC women's beach volleyball.
Hey, the Seminoles, Sam, they have a program.
I'm going to need a list. I want to see a list. Produce a list. Have we talked Alabama and Auburn?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with Auburn. I think the thing that caught my eye this weekend, Auburn took 2 or 3 from Old Dominion. Christian Chatterton, their freshman ace, was really good today. 5 1/3, 6 strikeouts, 1 run, was not earned. The bullpen was not good on Saturday. I'm a little worried about Auburn's pitching outside Chatterton, although Dutton was okay this weekend, not great. He has been great, and I'm just not sure with Cade Fisher what they are or aren't going to get. But Chatterton pitching that way today was a big deal. But I think the biggest news, and Alfred, you sent this to me in a text earlier, that the Irish injury, was that a hand injury?
That was Graham. Was it a hand injury?
I didn't see it live, but I just saw online that he was hit by a pitch, which is why he did not play today. So obviously something to monitor there for Auburn, and if that's something that lingers, especially week 1 of SEC play, that is a brutal break for Auburn after everything they went through last year injury-wise.
Yeah, let's not use the word break there. I hope it's not that, but I know you meant it another way. Just kidding, but I mean, he look, in all seriousness, he had not been hitting up to his capability anyway. For whatever reason, probably just slow start, but. If Ike Irish is out, I mean, he's a preseason first-team All-American catcher. That could be a big deal for Auburn. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, but that's something to monitor. Sticking in the state, Alabama finally lost this weekend, fell to Presbyterian. The pitching was not very good today. Now, the pitching, I think the starters have been really good for them so far. But I guess the story continues to be Justin LeBron. He had, 42 RBIs coming into today?
Yeah.
He had 9 this weekend.
Yeah.
He's I'll go ahead and everyone watching in YouTube, he's the first pick right now heading into 2026. Yeah. I mean, I think it's getting to be that way if it's not already. I know they took a tough loss today, but man, I mean, he's the story of this team. Like you look at the 2 games prior, they dominated Presbyterian. I mean, one loss should not discourage any Alabama fans out there at all. I'm still really excited about this team heading into SEC play. I think they have a really good, real opportunity to take that first series from A&M. I might go ahead and pick them. We'll see about the midweek. But, yeah, I mean, I'm really pumped up. I think the problem today, like you said, Chris, pitching just got out of hand. I mean, you had Justin LeBron who homered. Jason Torres, he's homered a little bit. He homered again today. It just came down to, I think the bullpen. Yeah, the bullpen fell apart a little bit. Bobby Alcott got the start. He did give up 3 earned runs, but I mean, with Alabama's offense, you kind of expect them to come back from that. But then guys like Matthew Heiberger and Braylon Myers didn't necessarily deliver exactly what you wanted. They both only recorded 1 out. So yeah, just an off pitching day. I mean, if you're Rob Vaughn's team, you're not discouraged by that really at all.
Yeah. So throw out today, their bullpen was good though this weekend. Yeah. They did not allow a base hit the first 2 games this weekend. Bama's bullpen. We also need to give some love to Will Hodo. 10 hits.
Oh, he was great.
Triple shy of the cycle in game 2. And Alfred, you touched on Torres. He didn't hit 1 home run. He had 2 home runs today. So he was big time. But yeah, they're good. Zane Adams, like he's Mr. Consistent to me. Just 6 innings and a ho-hum, 10 strikeouts. Didn't walk anybody. So you'll take that all day, every day.
Yeah, I've got some pretty crazy notes on their lineup. I'll save those for tomorrow in power rankings. Who's left on the board at this point?
We could do. How about
what's that?
Florida Mizzou? Rock paper scissors?
Well, no, we don't need to do rock paper scissors. That's yours.
I'll do. Okay.
Come on, man. How long you been here?
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to play fair, like all the way. But
I think
Florida. I mean, Florida this weekend. You kind of expected them to do what they did. I mean, Harvard was not a good baseball team. Is not a good baseball team. This is if you wanted this maybe a bad thing to say on my part. But if you wanted injuries to affect you any weekend of the season, this weekend against Harvard was probably the one you wanted if you were Florida, to be quite honest. The reason I say that, Aidan King got the start on Saturday because of a Coppola injury they're monitoring. Really good. You kind of saw why Kevin O'Sullivan has played him a ton this year. I think it was 8 strikeouts at one point. He might have finished with more than that, but he was in full command throughout his entire start, and it was a shutout that ended in 7 innings. So great stuff from them. And let me double check that. As a matter of fact, it was 8 strikeouts. He gave up 2 hits, no earned runs, walked only 1. Great stuff from him. Hitting wise, Bobby Boaster that one game had 2 home runs. He continues, I think, to be a great support bat for them. I know Brodie Johnston gets on a tear when he's hot. You have other guys who contribute as well. He might be Bobby Boaster might be the number one, or not number one of the top bats in that lineup. Period. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it. But Josh Carter mentions in the chat, Florida State Tuesday. Talk about a really good midweek matchup. That's going to be very, very good. I'm sure a lot of people will be watching that. That's what I'm looking forward to. Florida has an opportunity. I keep seeing this everywhere to end both Tennessee and Florida State's unbeaten records this 1 week. So I'm sure that would be an awesome opportunity for Kevin O'Sullivan's squad. But Florida, really, I know they took a loss to Miami and whatnot, and then lost to UCF, obviously not what they wanted to do, this midweek, but take care of business against Harvard pretty soundly. I mean, you shut them out multiple times, and you just run roll them, really to death this weekend. So great stuff from the Gators all around.
Yeah, and Liam Peterson continues to be in the conversation. Like, to me, the 2 Liams, Peterson and Doyle, I mean, they're right there for SEC Pitcher of the Year, along with Kyson Witherspoon, who we'll touch on here in a little bit. That is, what a week here coming up here for Florida. I mean, we got tons of time to talk about it, but is the midweek, is it in Tallahassee, the Florida State game?
It is.
Okay.
According to Josh Carter, it is, and I believe it is.
Yeah. they play him 3 times this year. I think they usually play him 3, or am I imagining, do they play 4 sometimes?
They play it that way sometimes. I think it's all midweek spread out, right? I mean, that's usually
it's never a weekend. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's midweek of the year so far. And who's ready for Liam versus Liam Friday? I am.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Who have we got left that we've not hit?
Oklahoma.
Okay. Oklahoma. The late one went final. I know Kyson Witherspoon had 10 strikeouts early in the weekend. Oklahoma swept Sam Houston. I didn't see the final today, but the others were pretty low-scoring games for college baseball these days. I mean, Witherspoon struck out 10 in a row. I'm not sure I've ever seen that. I'm sure it's happened, but that's remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, he was incredible. He threw almost 100 pitches, but only like 52 were strikes. It's like somewhere around that. So that was a little inconsistent. But anytime that you have 10 strikeouts in a row, that's video game stuff. Any level, I don't care who you're playing. He did walk 2, but I mean he's been awesome. And then I've touched on it a little bit, but again, Malachi, it's kind of been a different path for him so far this season. I think he started game 3 today, and it was just kind of like up and down for him. So again, adjusting to a new role, hasn't really quite settled into a starting role yet. But if Oklahoma can get both Witherspoon twins to just click, like especially like Kyson has been doing, Oklahoma is going to be a tough out.
Yeah, another side note on their pitching. Cam Johnson got the start in the first doubleheader game today. They won 7-3, career high 8 strikeouts. You got to love that if you're Cam Johnson coming in from LSU. Again, he just adds to the great pitching this team has, and they took care of business. They're 14-1. They're another team to be a threat heading into conference play. Their first weekend series is South Carolina. Can't remember where it's at, but that's just another one to watch. Another really great matchup. South Carolina, we'll get into them in a second. I think that's kind of a tricky matchup to monitor. But
hey, Alfred, before you go, do you have the box score for Cam Johnson's start in front of you?
I do, yes.
What were the walks and what were the pitches and strike totals?
8 strikeouts, 2 walks. I did give up 2 earned runs. Let's see. He had 84 pitches today, faced 20 batters. He did hit 1. But I think I can't find the strikes, but 84 pitches and only walked 2 guys out of 20 faced.
That's really good for him. I mean, that's encouraging. Okay, carry on.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. That was really the biggest performance today. I saw Jason Walk was hitting the ball pretty well for them as well. Like I said, looking into them against South Carolina, it's a tricky matchup to kind of break down. It's going to be one I'm going to have to look a lot into because South Carolina played a little odd. Their offense was good, but their pitching wasn't as good as it was, I thought, before the series they had this weekend, and we'll get into them in a sec. But yeah, going back to Oklahoma, you're encouraged heading into SEC play this upcoming weekend.
It's in Columbia too, by the way, Alfred.
Okay, that's a good. I'm sure Founders Park will be packed for that. That'll be a pretty good welcome. How about Oklahoma and Texas? Two big ballparks to go to start SEC play this weekend.
Yeah.
Not a coincidence.
No, I'm sure that was on purpose.
I think we're going to touch South Carolina next. You had that one, Alfred?
I did, yeah. South Carolina, pretty good weekend offensively against Morehead State. You had home runs from a plethora of people, including Evan Stone. Ethan Petrie had one as well. They were without Talmadge LaCroix. They had some injuries this weekend. They were without Talmadge LaCroix, who pretty much is their go-to catcher. So that was a little bit of a weird thing. And that actually, now that I think about it, that may have affected pitching a little bit, which is why some of the scores they played against them were so high. But alas, didn't really affect them too crazily. I mean, they got the sweep. Today's game was kind of a snooze fest, Carolina fans, if we have any watching. 1-0. You got good pitching today. Dylan Eskew went 3 innings. You got Jack Sochi. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He got the win. 2 strikeouts and 2 innings of work. Brendan Sweeney with the save. So the pitching today, very good for that team. They did not give up they gave up a few walks actually, but hitting wise, they did not give up hits over stretches. I mean, they, allowed each pitcher that played for South Carolina just gave up one hit today. So that's my thing. I think you're kind of encouraged because offensively, this team was not where the pitching was heading into this weekend. You saw the offense kind of flourish this weekend, which is nice right before SEC play. I have a feeling that pitching will get back to normal, especially if they get LaCroix back, for SEC play. If that happens, they can start to make some noise. And I'm sure a series win against Oklahoma will be a great way to start that.
Yeah, to me, they need to get healthy, and they just need to find somebody other than Ethan Petrie to make some noise at the plate. But they took care of business this weekend. Morehead State's a very good program in the Ohio Valley Conference.
They've got two catchers hurt now, LaCroix and somebody else, don't they? I was seeing one of their beat writers tweet about that earlier in the week. So they're really banged up there right now. I think the thing that caught Tyler Pitzer came in today in the 6th and almost got him to the finish line. I really like him. I kind of like him in that role. I don't know that he's a 6, 7, 8 inning guy. Not that there's many of those anymore, but I've seen him shove in spots, and he kind of did it for them today.
One other guy before we move on to in their lineup, I forgot to mention him, but he deserves some love. KJ Scobie has really been pretty decent this year. I feel like he's going to get a lot of play in, a lot of starts in at least during SEC play. 304 average for him. He's hit 2 home runs, and he actually had one this weekend. That was one of them. But also an on-base percentage well above 400. So KJ Scobie, good job. Is going to start, a lot more as time goes on.
Sooner Cowboy said OU with a nice sweep after getting embarrassed by Dallas Baptist. Got to find a way. Hey, look, a lot of people have problems with Dallas Baptist. Midweeks, you see some nutty stuff from time to time. All right, who we got left that we have not hit at all? Did you hit Kentucky Wofford? I think we got. Okay, we've got. Because I remember I was out resetting the router for a bit. I did not hear that one. Did we do Arkansas? Did we do Vandy?
How about those three next in order? Kentucky, Arkansas, Vandy.
Okay. You hit Kentucky because that was one you were following this weekend.
Yeah. Shout out Jay Greason, who's not with us tonight. He said that was an upset watch, and it indeed was. Kentucky dropped the middle game to Wofford to take 2 out of 3. They won on Friday and Sunday. Kind of a little bit similar to South Carolina in the sense that the offenses, were there more so on the Friday and Saturday games. Sundays was obviously a 2-to-1 pitching duel between the two teams. But looking at the stuff on Kentucky, that Saturday game, the one they lost, left a lot of guys on base. Left 10 guys on base. Dylan Kuntz was left on base 4 times in that game. That's a lot of times to be left on base. Kuntz had a good weekend though, actually. So shout out to him. Tyler Bell and Hage were good again. Go figure. Those guys are going to probably be the pillars in that lineup going forward. Looking at their Sunday game, that was the pitching duel because, the pitching for Kentucky has been right on the doorstep of Tennessee's pitching as far as stats go in the league. Got a great start out of Ethan Walker. Gave up 2 hits, 1 run that was not earned. He went 5 innings in the game. Scott Rouse came in, closed it out, 4 innings, 3 hits, 4 strikeouts again from him. Yeah, to me, you got the best of everything. If you're Kentucky, look, Wofford's a good mid-major just to get that, in the air and said. I think you're not really discouraged about, losing 1 to them. You'll take 2 out of 3. You win the series. Really, really good stuff from the Wildcats. I don't know if there's a lot more that they can really do. I mean, I think they're kind of doing all they need to. SEC play is going to tell us a lot more about this team, in my opinion, guys, because they haven't played. I don't think they've played, some of the bigger level teams really to a degree that some of these other teams have. And looking up and down their schedule, they haven't. So looking forward to SEC play with them. They open against Georgia in Athens. So that'll be a good one to watch. We'll see if that pitching can quell this Georgia lineup that's hitting home run after home run.
To me, it just seems like Kentucky, they're just trying to find their identity. Like they won today, which is great, a nail biter, but they're winning in different ways. So Is that how it's going to be all season long, or are they got to start to develop an identity and okay, this is when we play Kentucky, this is what it's going to look like. So to me, they just kind of been all over the map, but Mingione is just such a good coach that they've been able to win these games so far in just a variety of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got Vanderbilt, Xavier, and Arkansas, Portland.
Yes.
Okay. Hit Arkansas for us.
Arkansas. I know a lot of people throughout at least the beginning of the year had questions about Arkansas's offense. That was answered a little this weekend, I think, guys, just a little bit. I'll start with the game I caught the most of with them was Friday's game. We didn't meet, of course, on Friday night, but that was the one to catch. I mean, you look, you get Gabe Gackle. I think the thing with him, he looked better. I will say that at the start, and he went deeper. So you'll take that if you're Arkansas. Gave up a little bit of runs. But, I mean, man, I don't know if it really mattered. I mean, look, Arkansas scored 20 runs in this game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys with hits in this game. Bahiva Aloy had 3 hits. Kahio Aloy had 2. Brent Iredale had 3. Iredale had 8 RBIs in that game.
And 3 home runs on the weekend.
Yeah. So great stuff from him. Similar stuff right on Saturday. I mean, they won in a run rule 10-0. You look at that's Saturday is Zach Root Day in Fayetteville, and Zach Root did his thing, 10 strikeouts, 6 innings pitched again. Not on the pedestal, I think, of where Liam Doyle and Liam Peterson are, kind of right there, though, right? I would think among SEC pitchers so far this year. So Zach Root was huge on Saturday. You'll take that. And, man, I think Arkansas is right where they need to be. I said this about them, I think, earlier today or yesterday. People always harp on with them offense, and they had offense. They've really had offense, honestly, over the past week or so. Or even beyond that. I'm encouraged by what the Hogs are doing heading into SEC play this week. They are a team I'm really confident in.
Yeah. So as a team, they hit 11 home runs this weekend. And when I think about Dave Van Horn, just so consistent, how consistent, this is 32 straight non-conference home series that they've won in a row.
Man, that's impossible.
The last time they dropped one was to South Alabama in 2014. So that just tells you how consistent that they have been. To me, I guess my question is, like, Zach Root, he's been Mr. Steady, consistent for them. How much consideration, if any, does he becoming the Friday night guy? Because he was awesome this weekend.
I think
by the way, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you get that figured out like this week? I mean, I feel like that's kind of a weird thing to do SEC play wise. I'm not saying they can't, but I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe just me. Something to watch out for. Maybe, and again, I thought Gabe Gackle was fine. You could have asked for a little more, maybe, but it wasn't anything where I go, "Ooh, Gabe Gackle." It was like Gabe Gackle.
He was better than what he has been. And then Idle Sheets today gave up 8 hits. He did strike out 6, but I mean 8 hits. And then you look at Zach Root, just 10 Ks, 1 walk in his 6 innings. So you kind of know what you're getting with Zach Root.
Yeah, I think they've still got plenty of arms. Gackle has just been kind of a disaster the last 2 weekends, so you wanted to see something before they get to conference play. I think the last team left is Vanderbilt, which had a really good weekend, beat Xavier. That's a team that's in a regional a lot. And this is going to be a theme I want to jump into in a minute. And that's pitching, endurable pitching. Vanderbilt got some really good outings this weekend. J.D. Thompson on Friday night went 6, I think gave up 3, got the win. Chris McElvain was not good for them yesterday. I mean, he strikes out a lot of guys, but he just can't find the zone consistently. Wondering if maybe he loses his spot in the rotation before long. We'll see about that. But I think the big thing today, Vanderbilt nearly got a no-hitter itself. A 1-hitter today combined between Sawyer Hawks and Cody Bowker. 17 strikeouts. Again, that's a pretty good Xavier team that Vanderbilt beat today. I don't know if it'll be the regional team that it usually is, but that kind of stood out today. And then Brodie Johnston Friday night had a couple of home runs for them, including 2 home runs in an inning and a walk-off grand slam. So I think we're done with everybody, aren't we?
Missouri.
Oh, Missouri. Well, yeah, not the result we hoped for.
No, I don't know, guys. That was Chris. That was pretty depressing. First of all,
I know.
Want to say that, but no,
we're
I'm
rooting for you. We're rooting for Carrick Jackson. We really are, but it just has not been a good start.
I'm with you. I mean, and their first their first SEC series is in Alex Box Stadium. So yeah, I mean, that'll be a challenge. Obviously, I think every SEC series is going to be a challenge. I guess looking at their first 3 series, they do get 2 of them after Alex Box at home against Ole Miss and Texas. I don't know how much that helps them, but like a little worried. You know, I mean, they are a clear few massive steps behind the rest of the league right now. Yeah. I mean, when you look at how they're even with Texas A&M's record, I mean, you look at it, A&M is starting to come to a little compared to them. I mean, that's what I make of it. I don't, you know, I think you need to see a little bit of fight against LSU this upcoming weekend for me to be a little encouraged.
Guys, they had 14 hits and they lost a game. That's tough. I'll let's give them a little bit of love, some bright spots. Jackson Lovich, he had a good weekend, 7 hits. And then Nicoletto, also a good weekend. He had 7 hits. And then pitching-wise, Brock Lucas, who picked up a win this weekend. His 2 outings, I thought he was really good. 4 1/3, 6 strikeouts, didn't walk anybody, didn't give up a run. So if you're looking for bright spots for Missouri, there you go.
Pierce Seals, also RBI machine this weekend. He had 3 hits in one of their wins. Yes, he had 3 hits in one of their wins, had another RBI hit in the other win that they had. So another bright spot in that lineup. But yeah, looking for them to be competitive against LSU at the very least.
All right, we'll take your questions and comments. Super chats, always welcome. We got bills to pay around here. We appreciate those. I said this earlier. One thing that's really standing out to me, guys, is pitching durability. And I know I'm going to go through and name some names. I'm going to forget some people, but you got like the start that Zach Root had today or this weekend. What was it? 6 innings, 10 strikeouts. I feel like every team's had 1 or 2 of those guys that have done that so far, right? I mean, am I dreaming? I mean, maybe not Missouri, but like, that's one thing I wasn't expecting. Like, this is the day and age where you're having openers and guys just come out and they throw 98, and depart after 60 pitches for the next guy. And I know it's early, but also it's early. Guys aren't usually stretched out as much. It's cold. I think of all the stuff that's caught my eyes this year so far. I mean, the offensive numbers have been eye-popping, and you know, we could talk forever about those. But that's one thing that I don't think I think I knew the pitching had a chance to be pretty good. But God help us when we get down to postseason, we're trying to pick all SEC teams. I think right now Liam Doyle is going to be the easy pitcher of the year at the rate he's going. He's striking out 70% of the hitters he faces, which is unreal. But man, you got a lot of really great pitchers in there. I mean, we talked about Eyanson, we've talked about the Witherspoons, we've talked about what we've seen at Florida. I mean, I feel like just about every staff's got a couple of guys that just really dealt for a couple of starts this year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're picking a weekend rotation, not Friday, guy has to be Friday night, Saturday, but top 3 pitchers, take a pick from the order.
Yeah, I mean, you got one that's obvious, and after that, it's just like I don't even know, where you would start.
A lot of ways you could go. I mean, like you think of 3, and then another one pops up. It's the pitching. I mean, you have even guys who like Eyanson starts Saturday have you know put him on the map a little, and then Cam Johnson had a career day really for Oklahoma earlier today. So you have guys coming into the fold, and that may happen this weekend when SEC play starts. So
yeah,
we'll see. It's been just as good as the hitting's been for some of these teams. I'll say that.
Yeah. Let's go ahead, Graham.
I was going to say, Graham, do you see this? How did Ole Miss let Doyle leave?
How much time y'all got?
I don't think they let Liam Doyle leave, did they?
Yeah, it's complicated. Also, you need to know this is his 3rd different stop in 3 different years. So
right,
yeah,
and there's a lot that goes into it. at the time, Ole Miss didn't have a pitching coach. So Joel Mangrum wasn't hired. That's a part of it. And then also Tennessee made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yeah. There you go. New H.
Do you want to do medal stand with teams? We do it in basketball. I mean, I don't even know where to start with players. I'm just going to pass on that one this weekend because you got a bunch of guys putting up video game numbers. But we do bronze, gold, silver for teams. So put your thinking cap on. I'll give you a couple of minutes.
All right.
To figure it out, and then we'll take some questions.
Sounds good to me. I'm trying to think. What else have people said? Chris says back end of Auburn's pen, leaving a lot to be desired. Chatterton was dealing today, though. WDE. War, bleep, Eagle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Something to think about there. Actually, I have mine. I have my medals, I think.
Let's go for it.
Gold, Tennessee. I mean, it's hard not to, right? No-hitter, team no-hitter Friday, hitting fests Saturday, Sunday, the rest of the weekend, doing what they need to do. They're one of 2 undefeated teams left in the country, only undefeated team left in the SEC. You feel like you go back, that's the gold medal for pretty much every week, essentially, or weekend or something like that. My silver, I know the opponent wasn't up to snuff, but I think Florida, look, they killed it the whole weekend. Harvard really had no chance. You saw kind of the best of Aidan King, and he was about the moment. I know Aidan King had been pulled from the bullpen into the game a bunch this year by O'Sullivan, but he got the start and lived up to the hype and stuff. I'd probably give him, if we did players, I'd probably give him like a bronze. He might have been a big competitor for the bronze for me. But yeah, as far as Florida goes, I mean, you really kind of lay the hammer to Harvard this weekend and just kill it on all ends. And then my bronze for teams, I'm going to go. Oh, I had it. Yeah, I'll stick with it. I think I'm going to do LSU for bronze. I know you had the Eyanson start, obviously, Saturday, and then you had those good hitting days. You had the Pearson brothers absolutely kill it this weekend. And then just overall, the hitting on Friday and Sunday was really good. So Tennessee, Florida, LSU, gold, silver, bronze, that order.
We share the same gold. Tennessee, I mean, Alfred, I think you pretty much covered it. Whenever you're one of only 2 undefeated teams in the country, you're doing something right. My silver, I'm going to go with Georgia just because they're on their longest winning streak since 2009. Tells you how long that it's been. Remember those Georgia teams back in the late 2000s were stacked. That's when they played for the Natty in 2008. So to me, Georgia would be my silver. And then I don't know if this says more about A&M or what, but I'm going to go A&M bronze just because, boy, it felt like they needed some wins this weekend, and they were able to win the series. That just feels big for A&M.
I think I'm going to go Tennessee gold. Wasn't the greatest opponent, but you run ruled the 2 games that you could have run ruled. The other one was a 9-inning game. You had to play that in one out. You hit the other team. Silver, I'm going to go Vanderbilt. Again, and the last 2 are based, I think, on quality of opponent. They outscored Xavier this weekend. What was it, 25-4? That's pretty impressive. And I think the third one, and again, it's going to be based on who they played, and also the fact they gave up 4 runs. Also, was Texas beating Santa Clara. Santa Clara's 80 in the RPI. Those WCC teams are a cut above what most people are playing right now. So I'm going to go. I'm going to lean heavily on who you beat on 2 and 3. And I'm sure we've left somebody out. Josh asks, who's a team that's had a good non-conference run that you think will drop off in conference play?
Good question, Josh.
Oh boy, that is
that's a good question.
And raise up there. What you got, Alfred?
My hand like I'm in class. Josh, my answer, at least I think initially, I think when they get back, they'll get all their guys back, they'll be fine. But initially, Georgia, because if some of these starting pitching problems linger, they're not going to be able to save themselves like they have in non-conference play. Now, I think people are taking it out of proportion because that's not going to last. Like, I think you've had Colton Smith have problems, apparently sickness, something like that. he'll get back up to snuff. Leighton Finley, I know some of the starts have been off, but you got to think he's going to deliver you good pitching. And then, man, I mean, if you can get Goldstein back and you have those 3 back, they'll be fine. But I mean, we're a week away now. You probably won't get all of them back, and I think that's where the problem might linger. But I mean, you get those guys back with the hitting they've had, they're going to win a lot of SEC series. So, Josh, to answer your question, Georgia initially, not forever though.
That is not who I thought you were going to say. I got a different answer. I got 2. Number 1, Kentucky. Number 2, South Carolina.
Okay. Who did you think I was going to say? Carolina?
Carolina.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially since they got a big one right out of the gates to begin SEC play.
That is true. Yeah. Well, sorry.
I think the one I'm most worried about is South Carolina. I thought Carolina was a little better than people were giving it credit for being come into the year. But that was before we knew that Jerzenbeck wasn't going to throw it all this year. And now the injuries at catcher a little bit. That may not have staying power. I'm not sure they've got as much punch after Petrie as some teams in the line. The other one, I'm a little concerned about Ole Miss. 83 walks and hit batsmen in non-conference play. They are 14-1. That concerns me a little bit. How does pitching depth play after Elliott? By the way, Georgia's walked 87 guys.
Yeah.
And hit 15. So I did not see that. I did not know they'd hit that. I talked to my buddy Anthony Dasher this weekend who covers him, and I was asking him. He said he's not as worried about the pitching because of the depth they've got. And they've had, Goldstein hadn't been stretched out yet. I don't know if he ever gets there.
He kind of was. He went 3 today.
I think Finley's not been good a couple starts in a row, and good grief. Colton Smith was, I think, better this weekend, I heard. But, I mean, they do have 15 other guys that can throw. They got Curling on the back end. I mean, here's the thing. I'm curious, and I have to look at it. I feel like they've thrown a lot of guys early. And, look, I always look at give me your top 10 arms or so, right? Your top 10, top 12. Because if guys 13, 14, 15, 16, if they're not pitching well, they're not going to get the ball in a regional. Unless you're up 15-1 in the 7th and just need to eat innings. But I'm with you. I'm a little – now that I see that number, and I had not noticed that off the top, I'm a little worried about Georgia because I thought the pitching depth – and I thought their starters coming into the season, I thought Finley, Smith, Goldstein – if they could get, say, 60 to 70 innings out of him, had a chance to be a top 5 group in the league. But we're not there coming into the year. We're not even close.
No,
and JT Quinn hadn't been a factor at all yet.
No.
Yeah.
And Colton Smith was high on draft boards, top 100. I mean, I don't like second rounder, something like that, and he's battling stuff. So I don't know.
Caleb, a regular here, asked about comparing Chase Shores to Jump after Tommy John. I've not seen him pitch yet. That's on my list of things to do. Been hit a little bit. I mean, everybody knows, he's a top 10 guy in the draft. I think if he's healthy and he's pitching well. To me, and I didn't see the game today. If the strike zone is tight, if he can throw strikes, then I mean he's we talked about the list of guys that can start in this league and be studs. I mean, he's up there with about any of them.
Yeah, he hasn't. His walks have been pretty good. I mean, 7 to 85 batters faced. So I think that's right where you want it to be, really. Caleb, I think the hit, he's given up a ton of hits, which is my one knock so far on Chase Shores. But that being said, I mean the earned run total, he has an ERA right now of 3.15. So I think you're fine with it right now. He'll only get healthier from this and stuff. So speaking on Shores, I think you're liking what you're seeing. The strikeouts have gone down a little bit since his first start against Purdue Fort Wayne, way at the beginning of the year. But I'm not discouraged by it at all. I mean, again, like I told you, the walk rate was pretty dang good, and then really it's hitting. I mean, he's worked himself out of jams when he's given up hits, but it's just like preventing the hits is the thing with him.
Try this one on for size, guys. their starting rotation of Anderson, Eyanson, and Shores has struck out 94 guys.
Jeez.
And not to mention Cowan sitting back there, throwing 6 appearances and 19 strikeouts, and we know he can start. I mean, Zach Cowan could give them 100 innings out of the rotation this year if they needed it. They don't need it. But, I mean, I know that D1 got lampooned for LSU over Tennessee, and Tennessee was our one, and I think should be for right now. But LSU last year, let's not forget, like, first six weekends of league play last year. I mean, they were 2-13 in the league at one point. I mean, it was bad.
Right.
It was a situation where they had to just about win out, which they did. But like, if you looked at it, and Gage Jump got mentioned, Gage Jump and who was their other? They had 2 studs, top of rotation. The other one has just escaped me. But they had some dudes that could stretch out over long periods of time. And
Holman?
Yes, Luke Holman. It was definitely Luke Holman. Yeah, I don't sleep on them yet. Josh wants to know best lineups. I mean, look, Tennessee's the easy answer.
Right.
Productivity, Alabama's is
I'd say
not quite there, but it's closer than you would think.
Yeah.
I would say I mean, Tennessee's leading them and everything. Also, side note on who was I going to say? LSU. I mean, they won the portal too, so keep an eye on that. I mean, this past offseason. So that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. But lineup wise, Tennessee's the easy answer. Look, I mean, I think you turn on a TV and watch college baseball anywhere, you can see that. Other lineups, I mean, you can't go wrong with LSU either. I mean, I liked what I saw from the Pearson brothers this weekend. Bear Jones is going to be a power bat you always have. Stephen Milam, I think, is one of the most clutch players this league has, right, guys, right now. I mean, you look at what he does in clutch moments, it's unbelievable. I'm trying to think of who else. Florida, at any moment, Florida can explode, with Donay, Boser, all those guys. I guess Cade Kurland, maybe him coming back helps it. But they're right up there too with it. Alabama, we mentioned. There's so many good ones, but those are the 2. I mean, Georgia maybe. I guess Georgia too, right? I mean, the home runs are right up there with top in the country. So a lot of answers. Easy answer, Tennessee. I'm with you, Chris.
Yeah, Tennessee, definitely the easy answer. I think kind of a surprise. You can look up and they'll be top 5 as Auburn. I really like their lineup.
A lot of good freshmen.
Jared mentions, and when we completely missed this, Dylan Valantis started for them today. Highly ranked high schooler out of California, and like not a standout strikeout game. I think he struck out 3. And I don't know what Santa Clara is. I hadn't seen him play, but those West Coast teams are typically put the bat on the ball, don't strike out as much, run you to death. So he goes 3 innings, he goes 5 1/3, gives up 3, or has 3 strikeouts, gives up 1 run. Those teams can be kind of tough to pitch. They'll bunt and run and get you off your game, and they'll speed you up quickly. So good catch by him. Caleb says Eyanson had 15 strikeouts. Yeah, he was great at which of the Cal schools was he at last year?
San Diego. UC
San Diego. Yeah, I mean, he was a guy that I talked to a scout, because the parks out there are pitchers' parks. I talked to a guy that was in the scouting community, because sometimes those numbers get a little what's the opposite of offensive inflation? Your A's get deflated a little bit, meaning go down. But he said no, the stuff there is legit. And
right, and I said it with that. He didn't start great either in that first inning, but calmed down, stayed cool, and you saw the rest.
Yeah. Auburn has a young lineup, but deep. Yeah, I mean, we've talked many times about Butch Thompson, and we like that freshman class. I mean, and it's both of them. We talked about Chatterton earlier today. Like, if Christian Chatterton can give them 5 quality innings every weekend. I know their bullpen hasn't been great lately, But I feel like with Armstrong and Cam Tilley and Hayden Murphy and those guys, like they've got experienced dudes.
Right.
Who've been out there in spots before.
Lineup wise too. Youngness, we touched on it. Bob Terrell has shown flashes, and then Chris Rembert from Pensacola. Super impressed with him. Super impressed. Dark horse. We have a lot of good freshmen in this league, but dark horse freshman of the year candidate if he keeps it up and stays consistent with it.
Yeah. Josh wants to know about schedules, and my source on this, I use WarrenNolan.com because he usually updates his sometimes within 2 or 3 minutes of the game being over. So let me see what he's got. And for the record, I'm not a big fan of RPI, but it's what they use. Strength of schedule so far. Oh, good grief! It's not on the main screen. Tennessee's is 93. I think the teams that have had tougher schedules so far. Gosh, let's see what Ole Miss is. No, you know what? I know a better way to do this. Sorry, I'm stalling to get him his answer. Tennessee at 93, Ole Miss 75, Vandy at 34. Those are your top 3 RPI teams in the SEC so far at 4, 7, and 8. Yep. Arkansas at 11, strength of schedule 104. Georgia 16, strength of schedule 151. Texas 17 and 145. South Carolina 18 and 78. Alabama 24 and 152. Oklahoma 25 and 173. Auburn 32 and 99. Florida 33 and 158. So, look, I think we're all excited about SEC baseball and some of the scores, but let's also be real. They are clocking some overmatched teams.
Yeah. And everybody's RPI numbers are about to go up because we're all playing each other. And yes, guarantee you that the league's going to finish 500 in conference play. You can take that to the bank, just like basketball.
Yeah, poor.
You got to be kidding!
Somebody's going to lose.
Yeah,
that's incredible stuff from the SEC. There, 500. Holy smokes!
But I think I'm not surprised Vandy has the hardest schedule. You got to remember they played the 2 tournaments out west. So they played the most amount of games on the road.
Speaking of
LSU at 267, by the way, in strength of schedule.
There you go. Speaking of tournaments and non-con, one thing that's caught my eye and I think you need to watch out for, Bear Jones in our chat will like this. Texas has done 2 of them. They did the Shriner Showdown at the beginning of the year, then that Las Vegas one. They won both of them. So something to watch out for. Texas is building some. I know they're not real championships, but championship sort of DNA being built there with how they're doing in tournaments. So continue to watch out for that.
By the way, I dropped Warren Nolan's RPI link in the chat. I think a lot of people here probably know about that, but that is my go-to for catching RPI, and it will not let you sort by strength of schedule, so you have to just kind of go to the main page and scroll down.
Do you think college baseball will stick with RPI because basketball did?
No. I'm D1 baseball and the NCAA are pretty tight. And D1's been hyping that Diamond Sports rankings for a couple of years now. But I looked at that one, and I like it better than RPI. RPI can be gained too easily by scheduling, but they haven't updated that yet. Now, I do think last year, I feel like they gave it 10 games before they put anything in there. But when I checked yesterday, they haven't done it. I think eventually you have to. RPI's, I don't know. I just feel like it's too easily manipulated.
It is. I mean, I can tell you, like, a big reason why Ole Miss won the national championship is because they canceled a game at Arkansas State because no matter what happened, if they would have won, the RPI would have dropped. So at the time, Ole Miss was like really nervous. Hey, our RPI needs to be as high as possible so we can get in, and it worked. If you remember, Ole Miss was the very last team in the tournament that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think any system that's set up like that is just, come on. What are we doing? I do like what the NCAA has done with the net. I think what people miss there, I think the net quads are good. The number next to your ranking, people are hyper focused on. That's not what that was set up to be. I think if you could do something like that, Warren Nolan's ELO is kind of interesting, and it's based on winning games. It's the chess ranking that they use for that system. I kind of look at that one a little bit sometimes. There's not a lot out there. Kenneth Massey does one that's okay that I look at a lot. So if you guys are looking for stuff, those are fairly good sources. Gentlemen, any parting thoughts on SEC baseball tonight?
Mine. Everyone watching, our coverage does get better genuinely because of conference play starting, just because the teams are playing each other and you see both at the same time. So that'll get better and better. And I'm sure we'll get more of an audience from that just because of, well, maybe we'll see. I mean, we have a big weekend too with obviously SEC basketball, the tournament happening. Chris, you're going to be there, right?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm trying to decide how I'm going to play the weekend.
Yeah,
I'll probably be sitting on press row watching that in the laptop on baseball games.
There you go. And then obviously we have opening weekend for conference play with that. So outside of football, I know football definitely has bigger weekends, but non-football wise, probably as big as you get, quite honestly, with both basketball and baseball.
Josh wants to know if we're doing a Tennessee-Florida preview series. I think so. Our plan is we're going to preview all the weekend series in the SEC. We'll probably do that on live streams. Like you said, this week's different. It's not just the tournament, but like to be brutally honest, the Wi-Fi connection at Bridgestone sometimes makes mine here tonight, the first 20 minutes of the show, look good. Which, thank God, that finally worked itself out.
Yeah,
I did hit. I ended up restarting my browser. Like I'd done that a couple times, but anyway, enough of that. But point is, logistically, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge because I'm doing double duty. You guys are here and there, but we will do something. And if you guys are not following us, we are going live every day. What are we doing? 10:15 Central. We end up talking about an hour. Yeah, tomorrow will be power rankings. It may or may not start at 10:15 because we got our basketball show in the morning. We're doing awards and all that. So I'm going to do that one and then hop over here. And then we're doing shows, 10:15 Central. We've been going Monday to Thursday right around that time pretty consistently for about an hour. And the Thursday show is generally our preview show. But again, this week's going to be a little different. It may just be you guys doing it. I don't know. I'll be in on some of them. But, yeah, that's the plan. And I think we'll get back on Josh wants a standalone preview. And Josh, I will tell you, ordinarily we would do that. Ordinarily we would. I'm just not sure what it's going to look like with basketball schedules and Bridgestone and all that stuff. I'll get on. You guys may be able to handle it alone. But whatever the case, we'll have you covered between those two things this week. I am so looking forward to the start of conference play. I wish to God it was not SEC basketball tournament, but I mean, we're having to follow right now what. I mean,
well,
80 games a week almost. Well, plus the midweeks. I mean, it's just it's a lot to follow.
It gets easier. And it gets better from here.
Much easier. I mean, we try to keep up, but it's impossible to catch everything.
Right.
Yeah. I guess final thoughts for me. You knew the SEC would close strong, especially with the schedule this past weekend. This upcoming weekend, boys, it's going to be a good one. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the SEC with the conference tournament basketball-wise and then SEC play for baseball. So I hope everybody enjoys the week and enjoys the weekend because It's going to be a lot of heads on swivels trying to keep up with all the action on all the TVs. So enjoy it. It's a fun time of the year.
Josh wants to know if it always starts the weekend of the basketball tournament. For a few years at least.
Right.
Because I want to say it always has, or close to it.
I'd say close to it. I don't know all the time, but
yeah,
definitely close to it.
Yeah. We need to push it back.
Yes. March.
All right. Yeah.
Please.
Thank you all for watching. We'll be back again Monday, sometime mid-morning tomorrow. Whenever we get done with basketball, we'll do power rankings. So we'll be busy compiling those overnight. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the super chats. God bless you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon again here at Southeastern 16.